I have to answer the question. I know I make you crazy, but I have to answer it this way. If it's a low tide and we have a heavy storm, we have some street flooding in Hoboken. Some street flooding in Hoboken. The new system will make the sewers always think that it's a low tide in essence. So, however the system reacts at low tide now, that's how it will react later.
It doesn't really.
What does that mean?
It means that.
Doesn't mean
No, it doesn't mean something.
It
Last week we had 2.5 inches of rain on last Thursday. We had no flooding in Hoboken. We had some flooding in Hoboken, but we didn't have 2 feet of water at Jackson and 4th and 4 feet of water at Marshall and 2nd. We had some street flooding, minor street flooding, because it was low tide. Hurricane Floyd hit here. We had no flooding in Hoboken of any consequence. We had no flooding in the other towns. Right? Jersey City Journal Square was wiped out for 72 hours during Hurricane Floyd. We had no flooding here. We had a low tide situation. The new system will create a situation where, and when it's raining, it's always low tide. That's the simplest way for me to explain it.
Make it sound almost like it's all connected electronically, but it's not, right?
It is all connected electronically.
It is?
Yes.
Where were the pumping stations again? I missed the first one. Right?
15th Street, 11th Street, 4th Street, Observer Highway.
The proposed ones.
Yes.
All on the river. At the river.
At the waterfront, yes.
And how big are these stations?
The largest one will be 700 horsepower.
700 what?
700 horsepower.
How much space does that take up?
That one will be approximately a 15-foot diameter structure, about 10 to 12 feet deep. They'll all be underground.
We have them throughout the area now, Augie. It's amazing. Underneath Liberty, by Park Avenue, Weehawken, there's a whole underground pump station that takes the Union City, Weehawken, and western portion. Up by, I think, Broadway and Park Avenue, there's another pump station. It's amazing. They're all underground now. On the waterfront, there are several above ground. You'll see some at Woburn Avenue, and then there's one by 18th Street in Weehawken. But there's so many underground, it's amazing.
So this is different from the injector system you're talking about, right?
No, this is a regular pump station.
So how much water are we talking about?
Hundreds of millions of gallons per day flow rate.
Okay, so I hear all these grants and stuff and all that, but I don't hear Port Authority.
Port Authority?
Weren't they supposed to provide some money to help?
New Jersey Transit was.
I'm sorry, New Jersey Transit.
One proposed building a new sewer and Observer Highway to get us to remove our sewers from their property.
Right.
And the train yards. Right. They're not advancing any projects, so we're going to use our existing system.
And right after you put it in, they'll advance the project.
But if they do, they have to pay for it. We have a very simple rule of all developers. If any developer or any property owner changes the system, they have to pay for it.
But once your system is in, would they need to put in their own system?
If they want,
Depends what
if
they
they
want
want to get our sewers out of their train yards, yeah.
There was talk about a new system running down into the highway.
Yes. That's what New Jersey Transit proposed.
So that's totally unconnected.
That's on the back burner for now. It's got nothing to do with the flooding in Hoboken.
In essence, this is what they wash their hands of us. They're not all.
No, their line was tied to a development of the train yards. Nothing to do with the flooding. If they want to develop, they have to eliminate the 2 lines that exist on that property that are there now from the Sewerage Authority underneath the train yards. Obviously, there's been no development proposal, there's no hearings, there's no anything, so
And our cost of the pump station system doesn't change whether it would be in the new sewer and Observer Highway that they proposed or our existing system. Our cost is the same.
You talked about federal grants, state grants. They've got preliminary approvals from state agencies here in New Jersey. Having said that, and any excess cost would have to be absorbed by the Sewerage Authority, if in fact there is any. They're trying to talk about that. What, if any, impact will this have on ratepayers from the Sewerage Authority? Is there going to be any cost to them in the 3 towns that you serve?
There'll be a modest increase in the rate, sure.
You say modest.
We don't expect anything major.
That's why we're going to work hard to bring in as many state grants as we can.
And it's a little early to tell. You're talking about a time frame that we have to analyze. Some grants, some bonds go off. We have bonds all the time for these plants. Some bonds will go off. If it's a small amount, you may see no impact at all, depending on where the budget is at any point in time.
Would each of the towns, municipal governments need to approve this?
No.
Or, you know, because you're in a kind of say,
The city of Hoboken would be obligated to, in some way, pass legislation that would guarantee their participation, our participation in this. But the goal is that we would utilize and attract as much federal and state grants that are available. And when we make our way through the set-asides that would be created by ordinance in Hoboken for developers, we're optimistic that the cost, of course, we don't have much of a choice when we have so many of our residents suffering through all of this flooding. It's an obligation that we have, that we must step up to the plate. But I have every confidence with the ability of the North Hudson Sewerage Authority attracting state and federal grants, along with the contribution from the authority, we'll be able to address this problem in our city. Now, Hoboken sits right on the Hudson River. There is no city on this side of the Hudson River other than Nyack that has its main street 2 blocks from the Hudson River. So we have problems that many of our neighbors don't because of our elevation. So I appreciate, mayors and elected officials standing up for Hoboken, and I want all of them to know that I am extraordinarily appreciative, and we are an important city here in New Jersey, in Hudson County.
what would a time be, assuming the whole city, once they pass the approval?
Before Fred answers that question, Jeff, I'd like Fred to answer that, but before he answers that question, Mayor Turner spoke about earlier that he was here during the creation of this authority, and I can remember the quality of the water in the Hudson River just looking back 25 years ago. And if there's one accomplishment that people have made, elected officials have made over the past 25 years, is looking at the condition and the quality of the Hudson River. They're catching 40-pound striped bass out of the Hudson River. Growing up in Hoboken, that was unheard of. It was all industrialized and polluted. Last week, I actually saw a commercial fishing boat making its way up the Hudson. So the good news is that this authority was the right thing to do. This authority was the right thing to do. And the result that the professionals, the engineers, and Fred, the result has shown tremendous ecological benefits to the North Hudson.
I spent my life correcting Mr. Poach on budget issues. We make sure that we have very little rate increases. $10 million spread over 30 or 40 years is negligible. You wouldn't even notice it in the rate. And we're talking a plant that is a $250 million? Yeah, we have $250 million worth of improvements and value and all to our combined system. So $10 million spread over 30 or 40 years